Hi, I'm Dr. Daniela Stein, and welcome to the Health and Wellness Talk Show. I'm your host. I'm a medical doctor, a wellness expert. I've done further training in hormonal health, functional medicine, lifestyle medicine, everything to help you live your best life. Today, I'm so excited to have our guest with us. I have Beatrice. Welcome, Beatrice.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
This is Dr. Beatrice. Dr. Beatrice has a PhD in immunotoxicology, and then you're a big, passionate midlife advocate, and you have your own podcast and talk show,
yes.
which is also both on podcast and on YouTube as mine. And your show is known as This Time of the Month. Tell me about that. Why this time of the month?
Well, the name comes from the desire to replace the negative that time of the month, which was socially constructed for us, to a positive this time of the month, where we build community and redefine the narrative around aging, because I believe there's power and beauty in aging.
Oh, for sure. That is incredible, the work that you're doing and the community that you're creating around midlife. And I'm so excited about that. That's why I want you here. So in lifestyle medicine, when I did my diploma at the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine, we learned about the 6 pillars of health. So I was very familiar with nutrition, exercise, having restorative sleep, avoiding toxins. But then the big thing that I was blown away about was all the research that's been done behind community. You will live longer, healthier, disease-free if you surround yourself with an incredible supportive community. And it's just blown away my mind. Studies they've done, specific studies in Sweden regarding guys dying of heart disease. Your risk of dying of a heart attack is significantly higher if you're socially isolated. And that risk factor is bigger than high cholesterol, diabetes, high blood pressure. The only risk factor that was bigger than social isolation in that study was smoking. So if you think about it, if you can avoid disease, and the same thing in the nurses study where they look at breast cancer, where they've done a big study in nurses, and they saw that the nurses who had breast cancer, those who had a great social community around them, tended to have less recurrence of their breast cancer. Yes. They had less mortality, so they had less chance of dying within the first 5 to 10 years. Significant impact of community, and you're creating that.
Yes.
You are creating community for women around midlife. So tell me, how did that come about? Why are you such a passionate advocate?
Well, it's funny that you should mention the isolation part, because I was blindsided by perimenopause, and I have a PhD in sciences. I'm married to a physician. And yet when I started going through perimenopause, I didn't know that word. I didn't know what was happening to my own body, and I felt very alone. And when I started...
And you felt too young, right?
Too young. Did not dawn on me.
That's the big thing that I see. People feel too young. And maybe I want to interject there. That was when I brought out my book, Thrive Through Menopause. My biggest thing was when I see people in the clinic and people will say, oh, I'm having brain fog. And I'll ask, could it be menopause? They would be, no, I'm too young. Yes. I'm still getting my period every month. And then people will come with joint aches and say, and I would say, could you be perimenopausal? And people will say no. Or they would have fatigue, lack of
not feeling like yourself. That's a common, very general term, but it's what I hear repeatedly.
Yes,
and I don't feel like myself, except you can't put your finger on it, and you're young, so it doesn't. No one's told us that perimenopause happens as early as your late 30s, early 40s.
And that was when I decided on the cover for my book. As I was talking with the team through that, I decided to put my own face on that cover. To see a young person on that cover, to help to change that narrative that you can be young and go through menopause. And that can really open up a world, and that's what you're doing for other women, to see that you can be young, you can be beautiful, and be going through midlife. Because we feel young inside us. I see even for my parents in their late 70s.
Yes.
When I talk to them, they're like, no, they're not aging. They're young. We always feel young. My mom says she still feels like that 12-year-old inside her. You're never going to think, oh, I'm old enough for menopause or old enough for a senior, which is great.
Yeah. But you can miss things, because if you think that's you don't even realize that's what's happening. You just sort of live with it or suffer in silence. And if you do try to vocalize things, in my case I did, that's what got me on this journey, was because of my scientific background, I was researching okay, how am I feeling? Oh, there are tools. And as I started asking about those tools, I was very quickly, both by my husband and the establishment, dismissed. And it came from a loving place. And that's what I want people to understand, because I'm not here to vilify any camps. It's just that we've learned so much in society, in science, in so many areas where we make a narrative. Even the establishment has a narrative. And so rather than understand what was happening, it was like, oh no, just exercise more, just eat better. Oh, menopause hormone therapy is associated with breast cancer. And so there were all these statements made to me, and I could have taken them at face value, but I started researching. And when I started researching, I realized, oh, wow, do people know about this? And I would talk about it, grocery store, neighborhood. And that's when I realized maybe I need to build a community so we learn together about tools, and build a community to support each other. Because I agree, as soon as you can share, there's this incredible feeling of I'm not alone, and it helps. Yeah.
So what symptoms did you have? Why did you know that you were transitioning?
I think if I look back, it's always easier when you look back. I had children later in my life, and so you're in that storm of career, raising a young family. You're sort of not realizing, but all of a sudden, I think the weight gain was one of the things that I wasn't connecting the dot to hormonal changes, but it was an unusual, let's call it, nothing's different. I still exercise and eat well. Why am I gaining weight in the mid region?
Especially, yes, abdominal weight.
Abdominal weight. Fatigue.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Fatigue.
And fatigue is also difficult to pinpoint, because is it because your life is too busy? Is it because your kids have too many activities, right? So that is it.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Anxiety and sadness for no reason. Does that make sense? I think a lot of women might feel that, and feeling lonely even though you're surrounded. You have a loving family, you have a thriving career perhaps, but this deep feeling of loneliness is also something that I was struggling with.
And that's something that you very successfully now help other women with who go through this loneliness to connect through your community, so that they have people who's going through exactly the same thing in the same phases of their lives. And then, so it's a big thing that you have little kids, but then also typically we have aging parents.
Yes.
As we go through this journey. And even myself, I recently started seeing a therapist who specifically specializes in helping people manage aging parents. Because I work in the hospital all day. I see people 90, 100 years old every day. So I would tell my parents, do this, do that, do this, so that they can be good at 104. And I have this whole agenda for my parents. They're not sharing my agenda.
Yeah. And also how do you take care of yourself when you're taking care of, two generations? It's easy to forget about yourself, to not put yourself first. I think that's a really important thing, is through community realizing, telling each other it's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence. It's not selfish to go for that walk, whatever self-care and, taking care of yourself, because we've had some wonderful guests on my podcast as well, where we're reminded that the oxygen mask needs to go on you before you can take care of others. And so changing how you look at things.
And then having those boundaries, because I think that's the biggest thing that we see with women in our phase of life, is your main focus would be your kids.
Yes.
Your kids, your husband, your parents, and then you're okay.
But you're not okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've been conditioned to say we're okay, but you're not. But to just sit in the I'm not okay is also not good, because you need sort of someone to show you a way.
And that's what you're doing. Yeah. That's what you're doing through your community. You're helping people, but not just with the health part. You're helping them with everything else. Where do I get lipstick? Where do I get clothes that looks very good for my body that's changing? What body products should I use? So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, this time of the month it was part of my journey to change the narrative on aging. And through that, I realized how powerful the sisterhood network is. And we tell each other things all the time. So I felt like, this is like a hitchhiker's guide to midlife.
And it is.
Because we can talk about a scientific article in one moment, or, a business deal you just had. But very rapidly switch to, I love your lip gloss. Where did you get it? Or where does a woman shop for, you know, clothing that makes us feel beautiful at this stage of our life, that is not for our teenagers and not for our aging, parents. It's something that feels unique to this stage of life.
Yeah,
So
that's
that was
big.
the idea, is to kind of bring people and talk everything, lifestyle, health, and beyond.
And which is big because menopause, the treatment for menopause is not hormones or herbs. The treatment is to look at the whole person and all your unique different aspects of life. And everyone's journey is so personal, and that's what we've been talking about. Quite often people become um, quite divisive, saying that, oh, you have to use hormones or not, you have to do strength training, you have to do intermittent fasting or not. But your journey is so unique that you won't find that you can follow just one TikTok person and do exactly what they're saying. You will, through your community, see things, try different things, and see what works for you. Because your journey is going to be different. It's going to be different than your mom's journey.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that it's silly to think there's one way for everyone. It isn't that way. So bringing different perspectives and trying to see what might work for you. So that's with nutrition, fitness, style, all of it. It's sort of looking at you're a whole person. Women are multidimensional. We're not hormones. We're not an organ, right? And we are one person with a multidimensional life. And so how do we thrive in all aspects of our lives?
Which is our goal.
Yeah.
It's that's my goal, that's your goal, to help women to thrive. We know you can get through this on your own. We know you can survive, but that's not our goal. We want more for ourselves. We want more for our kids. That's sometimes something that I tell people when I teach them to be more empathetic towards themselves is, what do you want for your daughter? Your daughter that you love. Think about a loved one, someone that you really love. What do you want for them? And then allow yourself to have some of that. You don't want your daughter to just get by. You want your daughter to live her best life. And then allow yourself to have that, to live your best life. And then how are you going to live your best life? There's many things. I always talk about the 6 pillars of health. Your focus is really around that last pillar, that community, that having other women who goes through this journey with you.
Yes.
Which is a big thing.
And raising a next generation that can support us through that. So if I was blindsided, I don't want that for others. And I think we have a duty to raise both boys and girls to know that the reproductive life cycle of a woman, it doesn't stop at having children. If you choose to have children, there's a whole spectrum, and it's just not taboo. We want our boys to grow to be men, to know and recognize what is it and how can I be of support for the women in their lives. So that's really important, I think, is to share that knowledge, not just with women.
Because people get quite a lot of education around the teenage years when you start with the period, and even boys get education about that at school for girls. But we don't get similar education for when your period stops, what happens then. And then the other thing that you very successfully changed the narrative is that it's not a loss of your period, but it's a gain of wisdom. It's a gain of maturity. It's this new beautiful phase that you're going through.
It's not easy. I think it is a mindset, because that's not how I started. I want your audience hopefully to understand that I felt the loss. I felt, I'm not feminine anymore. I'm losing things. And I had to stop myself. I had to ask, why am I feeling this way? Is this internalized messaging from old patriarchal thinking? Why do I feel this way? And then embark on that journey of recognition that, no, this is an evolution. It's an evolution, not reinvention, because what we've done before is not a loss or a failure or bad. It's just we are evolving now. And so how do we do that? I want to go back to something you said. When you were in med school, were you exposed to menopause in your training?
You know what? Because my mom went through menopause. So when that Women Health Initiative study came out, it was a big hoo-ha. It was 2002. I was in med school. So they discussed it with us in class. And I didn't know if it was because it was like in the news, such a big topic that we maybe had more teaching around
Mhm.
it. But I remember very vividly how they taught us and explained to us at that point that this is how the research was done. They saw a lot of benefit for women if they go on estrogen during the perimenopausal years. So they wanted to see, can they get the same benefit, the same cardioprotective factors for women in their 80s and 90s? That was the goal of the study,
Yes.
the heart of the study. Much stronger hormones, not the hormones I prescribe now, but that was the goal of the study. Then they did it and they saw, oh no, we're not protecting women from heart disease in their 80s. We're not protecting them from breast cancer in their 80s. But the heart of the study was not to test if hormone therapy works in the perimenopausal years, because that has been established.
Well, they
That
studied
was
a
not the
group
heart
of older women. It wasn't
that we're not
the
going
right
through
cohort.
perimenopausal years.
Right.
Because they were not really studying the effect on hot flushes. We knew that was great. They didn't study the effect on concentration, mood. They knew that was good. They didn't have to study that. They studied something else. And they explained it very, very well to us. But even though they explained it very well to us at that point, I went home and I told my mom, you have to go get off your hormones.
I saw that in your book. And I
You have to
the
get
whole
off now.
generation, the whole generation of
And my mom said
medicine
no,
did-
because
yeah.
these
Oh, she fought you.
Yes, because my mom was in a very demanding job. She was at the height of her career, as most women are when they go through the perimenopause. And she felt that there was a lot of younger women coming into this specific space where she was, and that they had more energy. They sleep well every night, so they come fresh to work.
Yes.
Their concentration is good. They don't have brain fog. They don't have issues with mood. She felt that her estrogen really gave her the edge, and that was why she was doing so good in her career at this point, was thanks to her hormone therapy. So she didn't want to.
So she was a self-advocate even in that era, which is fantastic.
But I convinced her, and I said, but Mom, why does it help
You convinced her.
Like, Mom, why does it help if you get
No.
at your job, but you're not going to live a long life to see your grandkids, right? What if you get
Right.
this or that? Okay, so she then stopped. And then I journeyed
happened?
with her
Yes.
through everything, hot flushes. And then we looked at all the natural remedies. You're getting hot flushes, but what can you use for hot flushes? Your skin loses quite a lot of elasticity, but what can you do for your skin? You start experiencing brain fog. Biggest thing is osteoporosis.
Yes.
Because my mom really had a very wholesome life, and she really knew about her risk of heart disease, osteoporosis, if she does stop her bone density, her estrogen. So what do you do for that? And that's really what the whole book was about. It's looking at all the other things that has research behind it. And same thing as if you ask that they talk about in a med school, there is a lot of things that we actually, and I teach at McMaster University, I teach medical students, I teach residents, and there's a lot of things we teach. But when we teach, say you're developing now diabetes through your perimenopausal years because of the hormonal shift, our guidelines are first lifestyle changes. But that's a sentence. And even when I teach it, I'm passionate about lifestyle. I have a wellness clinic where I
It's a
only do
blanket
lifestyle.
term. It's a blanket term.
But it's a sentence.
Yeah.
So I teach my students you must do lifestyle, which is the 90%, and you must do medicine. But then we spend, so only 10% would be your medicine, 90% would be lifestyle. But I spend 90% of my time teaching when I teach about medicine, because you have to know about the interactions, the side effects, the impact on your liver, the impact on your kidneys, the impact on your gut. You know, those diabetic medications are so hard on everything else. So I have to teach that. I have to teach the interaction. And then I walk out of the class and I'm like, how did that happen? I spend 90% of my time of this 3-hour class, I spend 90% teaching the pharma, which I'm not passionate about. And even though I try to stress lifestyle medicine, I might go longer than any of my colleagues, but it will still be 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes.
Right? And then the students will walk out remembering, like, the interaction between medication. You start with that medication, then you step up to that medication, right? So it's not that anyone is cruel. It's not patriarchy's fault. It is just the way it is.
Well, and maybe the question is, does the lifestyle education component of health belong or only in medicine? It does not, right? You cannot be everything to everyone. And so what have you done in your practice? You know, what are other people doing to teach us about what lifestyle means, because that's just such a big term. What am I supposed to do with that? What does someone eat better?
Yeah.
Oh, reduce your stress. Okay, say that to the person who's a sandwich generation, running her career, her business, left, right, center. It isn't helpful to just be told, well, you need to relax more. So what we need are constructive, actionable things in that bucket. In addition, the pharma and the medications can help, but what else can be helpful? Yeah.
So that's big. When I was in family practice only, I found that I would be passionate about all these things, and someone will maybe have acid reflux, and I will say, oh, you have to do these lifestyle changes. And then the person will come back a month or two later and said, I tried what you said. I still have acid reflux. Please give me a pill. Then I'll give them a pill. Then a year later, they would now have iron deficiency anemia because this antacid caused you to absorb less iron, less vitamins. Then, because it changes the whole pH in your gut. And now that will be, oh, now I'm anemic. Now I'm really fatigued. So I'm like thinking, why are you fatigued? Oh, because you have low iron levels. Here's an iron supplement. And then after a month of the iron supplement, they'll come back and say, oh, now I'm very constipated. And I'll be, oh, here's an extra pill. So where I'm very fortunate now is because I have a lifestyle medicine clinic, people see their family doctor who want a pill, but people come to me who specifically want to make lifestyle changes, which makes a big difference. So when people walk through this door, when they email us, they committed, they want to put in extra time to make their lifestyle changes. But even though I only work with health coaches when I see people, because I know if I give you this very big handout, which I can do, that's why I'm writing that book, that's why I'm doing the podcast, I want everyone to have access to this for free. I really want people to do that. But quite often when we just get this big handout for this is a healthy Mediterranean diet, this is a good DASH diet for your blood pressure, you need to do at least 150 minutes of exercise a week, you need to sleep 8 hours, you need to stress less. People are like, how do I do it in my unique situation? Yeah. And there's where personalized medicine come in, where you can have access to a health coach. So you have a medical doctor that tells you need A, B, C, but then you have a health coach who can take you by the hand and say, in your situation, this is how you're going to do it. You know things are most stressful at your work, year end, you're an accountant, these are quarter end, these are your stressful periods. How are we going to prepare for that? We're maybe going to do freezer meals, or you're going to prepare freezer meals yourself beforehand. Another way you're going to prepare for it is to not skip your exercise, because that's the first thing that happens when we're stressed out, that we neglect that basic self-care. So then you have someone to take you by the hand to help you implement things that will actually make you be better off.
And what I love is that through podcasting, these types of messages can also reach a broader audience, because not everybody has the luxury of going to
personalized medicine and have your own health coach.
Yeah. Yes. So that, what are the things that
you can do?
Yeah.
Okay. So first thing is I recommend to track. So that's what we do for everyone who comes in. Typically when people come to my clinic, would be healthy people. That's why they know the big impact of lifestyle. That's why they are coming to a lifestyle medicine doctor. So they would tell me, oh, I'm eating perfect, I'm managing my stress, I'm healthy. Then I would recommend, how about we start tracking? And I would recommend all of you to track that. Use your kids' Fitbit just for a bit. You don't have to do it forever, but to just track. Or if you do have a smartwatch, connect it and go and look back at the past week or two. So what we do for all our clients is we connect their watch to our Practice Better is the app we use, where we have our visits, all your medical records are on there. But then also we track to see how many steps, because you might think that you're getting in all your steps. But if you track it, you might notice, you know what, I'm not getting, and even me, I love exercise, I love running, I can run forever. I really have a hard time stop running. But I don't run every day because I'm a mom. I'm in the sandwich generation. I have like 3 full-time jobs. So, but then if you track, you're like, oh, no wonder I'm miserable today. I didn't get in a workout for like how many days? Tracking is big. Taking pictures of all your meals, and then you can upload it to an app that just shows you how many calories. That's what I see with most women who comes in perimenopausal. They start gaining weight and then they start restricting calories because they want to lose weight.
And it makes it worse.
As soon as you restrict calories, your body thinks, oh, I'm in a famine situation. Stress. It keeps back fat. So what's very helpful is to really increase your food, but you want to increase nutrition-dense foods. So
protein
is a big one, and that helps if you track it.
Yes.
Because quite often we don't know how much protein. I'm a doctor. I've been teaching nutrition for years. I don't know how much protein I have in, but if you just track it for a couple of days, you'll see.
It's surprising how I don't think in the Western world we have too much trouble with fiber. It seems, I think protein, we
actually have a lot of problems with fiber as well.
You think?
Yes. So I noticed, so for some of my patients, we put this Dexcom monitor on where we track their glucose through all their meals. And then, so I see they don't eat a lot of fiber. And then the easiest way to normalize your blood sugar levels would be to increase fiber. So maybe have a salad just before your meal. And that will help if your blood sugar used to spike with every meal. And maybe you don't have a problem with fiber because you're eating healthy. If you have lifelong healthy lifestyle, then likely you're good with fiber. But I really see a lot of people who don't, because fiber is effort. Right, to cut up veggies is effort. Yeah. It's so much easier to grab a bagel. It's so much easier to grab a sandwich. So if you have fiber, good, that will prevent you from getting type 2 diabetes. It will help with prevent constipation. It prevents colon cancer if you have a regular bowel movement every day. So good for you if your fiber is good. But there are some people, so just track that.
Yeah, tracking is a great tip, definitely.
Yes, and you don't have to track forever. And then also your sleep. To see what time do you go to bed? Do you go into your deep restorative sleep? How long do you sleep for? A lot of research shows us that your most optimal sleep are from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. And I didn't know that before I really researched sleep. That we were not taught in med school. When I really researched sleep. So especially if I now have a woman that I do CBT for sleep, for menopause, it's okay if you don't sleep through the whole night. But to make sure that you get enough deep, good quality sleep. And then, so to really maximize on your quality if you can't really just have quantity. And a lot of us don't have time to be in bed forever. So just
the quality sleep, definitely.
Yeah.
What's the thing that has surprised you most in your clinical practice now that you're focusing on more lifestyle?
Was relationships. The first person I actually got to this clinic when we opened a physical clinic was a marriage counselor. And you can find her on our website, Erica. She's fantastic with what she does. Is if you step back, quite a lot of women will come with their health. But what's going to give you most joy in life? I mean, science shows us what's going to really help you live to 100 years are those close relationships. And for most people, their spouse is the person that they spend most time with. But for you, it might be someone else. But if you do not have a good relationship with your spouse, if you look at where you're at in life now, 40, 50 years, you're going to be 100 years, so you're still going to spend 50 years with this spouse. From my perspective, that is one of the most important investments I think you can make is in your relationship with your spouse. So there's a lot of things we often blame, like, oh, he grew up in a family where dad never cooked and dad never helped in the house. That's the way he is. But if I look at me and my husband has been in his parents' house the first 16, 18 years of his life. We've been married for 18 years and we've been together for more than 20 years. So if my husband is not helping in the house, I cannot blame it on his mom and dad. That is really the boundaries we've been setting, the way we've been shaping each other. We spent way more time with each other than I've ever spent with my parents. My parents were more a little bit in a generation where kids were less helicoptered. His parents as well, he was not as helicoptered. But me and my husband are shaping each other every day. How are we shaping each other? Are we supporting each other?
I think you need to verbalize. You need to verbalize your needs. I think sometimes we shoulder a lot of things as women and we make, again, narratives that we should be the matriarch and the holder of everything.
It's not only women, even my husband. Like last Friday, I assumed he was going to work from home. I don't remember why I assumed that. So I made him drop off the kids, pick them up after gymnastics. Only that night when we sat down at dinner, I realized he had his very big important meeting where partners flew in from all over the country at that meeting. And he showed up late after he dropped the girls off first. And when I called and said, will you do the pickup at gymnastics? Honestly, because I was chatting with a friend, oh my gosh. He just said yes. So it's not us women only not communicating well, it's men also not communicating well, right? So it really helps to have that marriage coach to just sit through how do we communicate and what are our goals in our relationship. And then, that's a game changer. If you're like very, very happy, and I know that's part of the reason why I'm very happy in life, because I'm very happy in my relationship with my husband. We don't fight. we don't always communicate perfectly, but we have that ability to communicate and to say our needs and to respect each other's needs and boundaries. And I honestly think that's where my happiness comes from, and also from eating healthy and exercising and sleeping well. But so that's a big game changer. Yes, I think that is, if people really look at your relationships around you, and maybe at the end of the night, just jot it down. Who today sucked the life out of you, and who gave you energy?
Yeah, I like to say, fill your bucket. Who fills what fills your bucket? What or who? It depends. Yeah.
Yes, but maybe if you want to take away for our podcast listeners today, if you can just think, who filled your cup today and who drained your cup, and to start setting boundaries around, even if it's a mom, a sister, a loved one, just maybe have your boundary of only talking to them once a week. And make time for those people who fill your cup. And you fill the cup of many people. So I would like to encourage our listeners, please watch on YouTube, subscribe to Dr. Beatrice's YouTube channel, listen to her podcast. I'll put all the links below. Thank you so much for listening to us. I really appreciate your time. I know all of our listeners and YouTube watchers are busy people. They're doing it while they're in the car doing their laundry. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thanks for spending your time with me. It will mean the world to me if you'll click like and subscribe.
Thanks for having
Beatrice. Me. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this episode today by medical doctor Daniela Stein. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter at www.wellnessmdhealth.com to stay up to date on educational resources that will take your quality of life to the next level. The content of this podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your healthcare provider. Never disregard medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Remember, you are created to thrive.